So hello everyone. My name is QnA, Kes. I'm one of the co-hosts for today on behalf of She Secures. And what we'll be doing this evening, we'll be having a conversation about Microsoft Defender, and the other co-host, Joy, will be taking this session. And what she'll do is like run through Microsoft Defender and some of the things that Microsoft Defender has to offer. So first of all, I'll just tell you a bit about She Secures, what the agenda is for today, and Joy will take over and then introduce herself and then start her slide. So She Secures is like a community that was created it was initially created by 4 people because when we all wanted to join cybersecurity in Nigeria, we all faced like hurdles that were kind of similar. So the whole point initially of starting She Secures was, okay, let's create some kind of community where other people like us who also have problems or have some difficulties or confusion about joining starting a career in cybersecurity, when they join this community, they might get they will get some help, get some clarity, get some direction on how to navigate the space, how to get started, how to network and all of that. So on this slide, I just highlighted some of She Secure's major aims. So the first one was to bridge the gender discrepancies in cybersecurity. So I'll speak from experience. When I initially started in cybersecurity in Nigeria, I didn't know a lot of females that were also interested. As a matter of fact, I didn't know any female that was also interested. And I just thought, okay, it's probably not for me. I'll probably become a developer or I'll find someone else doing IT. And then I met like other ladies, and then it's like, oh, there are also other people, but we didn't know each other. So that's one of She Secure's aims, like, let's connect these people together so they don't feel like they're doing this journey solo. And then another major aim of She Secures is to provide education and networking opportunities. So within the community, like there's a lot of like knowledge exchange, there's a lot of networking. People share details about maybe scholarships or job openings, or just to help each other, like study groups, and just help each other in this journey in security. Another thing that She Secures does is provide technical and leadership skills. So like I said earlier on, within the community, there's a lot of exchange that goes on. It could be in form of mentoring, it could be in form of just creating a study group. And then also, besides the mentoring that She Secures does, we also provide virtual internship opportunities. We have one that happens, like it's been happening it's been happening back to back for the last 2 years with the Moss Security. That one is also in collaboration with another community in another community. I just feel like another community. So the agenda for today is the introduction, like I have started. And then when I'm done speaking, we'll have our co-host for today, Joy. She's on Twitter, she's also known as FJ. She will be giving this session. It will be a demo session. And then after this session, we'll have like some Q&As. So if you have any questions, you can wait till she's done doing the demo and then you have your questions. And we'll try to answer as much as we could. And then after that is the closing remarks and feedback. Like we'd like to hear back from you guys, what you think we should do next, how the session was, if you learned anything and if it was useful. So I would give the mic now to Joy so that she can start. Before then, yeah, one more thing. Before then, we do have some ground rules. What needs to happen while this session is happening so that, one of them is we're recording this session so that you could make reference to it again. If you have a question, it would be nice to use the raise your hand button, like signify, don't just interrupt the speaker so she doesn't lose her flow. Be kind and be respectful to everyone in the session, and also no screen sharing. So that will be all from me, and Joy will take over now and start the session.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm bad. I've been off Zoom. No hard feelings, but I've not used Zoom in a while, so I'm going to tell you that. It's saying one participant can share at a time. Does that mean I can't share? Okay, I can.
You can share, I'm not sharing.
Okay. Can you please see my screen? Please do let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you very much. Can we still see it?
Yep, yeah.
All right. Hi, everyone. So just to put it out there, this is not a training. This is not a Microsoft Defender for Endpoint training. It's a live Q&A session where we want to give you the opportunity to get to understand what Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is. And like Kes has given a background about the community, it's a community that was formed to, help people transition or grow their part in cybersecurity. And since Microsoft began to enhance its capability in providing tools, one of the challenge that we see is people have not understood the role Microsoft is playing in helping us do better in cybersecurity and in building a career in cybersecurity. So the catch, not just an antivirus, was very, very, very thought through, especially when we think it and tied to the Microsoft Defender. So today we're going to show you how Microsoft Defender is not just your typical antivirus that you think or that you know Microsoft for, and how in the cybersecurity world, Microsoft Defender is now playing in that space and how you can build a career around it and how it can help you stand out. My name is Joy Emedum. I have just a little sneak peek into my life, just so that you get to know that I'm a human being. Sometimes people think some of us who have done this transition, we're way better. No, some of us are just one step ahead, doesn't mean. So a sneak peek into my life, I've been doing technology over 9 years. My background is around infrastructure, application integration, and user support. I've done it. I've carried server, I've carried laptops, I've carried hard drives, and also around IT security, governance, compliance, cybersecurity. I'm currently working with one of Microsoft's top partner in Ireland, and I'm married and blessed with children. I am a fitness enthusiastic. I participated in Nigeria's first weight loss reality show where I lost about 20 something kg. Unfortunately, coming to Europe in the last couple of months, I think I have added back those kg. I used to pray my coach will not see me so that he doesn't know I've done bad. But, I love to exercise. I love to jog and I love to keep fit. That's why that wink eye is there trying to tell me, Joy, I see you. You are not keeping all the healthy tips. Okay, at least I've gotten us to laugh and know that this is not a serious classroom. We're here to, get fun. I have some very interesting things that I hold heart to heart. I'm a believer that you do not have to give birth to a child to be a mother. I like to preach that anywhere I go. And then I also like to say that technology did not come to take our jobs. Rather, it opened the door for opportunities and creative ways of doing things. And if you look at it today, you will agree with me. So I am one of those who do not believe that there are no jobs. I'm sorry if it hurts you. I believe that jobs come when you think outside the box and think of creative way to do. So even if your mom is selling tomato in Yaba, trust me, there are ways you will make more money than the person who is sitting behind the decks in the world of today when you think creative and when you ride on technology. I like to use hashtags called unlimited, limited opportunity. What is that you have in your hand to help drive this my thought pattern? And just to give us a bit of icebreaker before we go on, I like to show a video. Some of you have watched this video before, some of you have not. Just a quick short 2 minutes video. Some of you might never understand what is there until we start talking, but then it's just to help us understand the world of cybersecurity and the importance of the kind of solution Microsoft is bringing. And please do let me know if the volume is high enough.
Yeah. Hi, Joy. Hello, Joy.
Can you see my screen?
Oh, are you sharing the actual video?
Yes.
We can't see it. I can't see it. I think
Okay.
someone else here. I think
Okay.
you have to select, you have
I
to,
think the way I'm sharing, it's the
yeah, you
problem.
have to draw
Okay.
the video into the,
Okay, I'll do that again.
oh yeah, but it's not, I can't hear anything.
Can you hear it now?
No.
Oh, that's a problem.
Are you using,
You have your headset connected. Yeah.
Connect your headphones.
Okay, I have to remove my headset down.
Yes. Yeah, then just turn up the volume a bit.
Okay, so we have to stop.
Yeah.
It doesn't drag us, but it would have been good to just get some people laughing and relaxing their jaws. Trust me, you want to watch that video. Every time I watch it, it just gets me. Okay. I really, if you haven't watched that video, please reach out to me. I will give it to you. It just gets me anytime I watch it. Okay, so before I go into to explain the whole Microsoft Defender is not an antivirus, I want to just, can we see my screen now? My slide?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, I'm sure some people are like that smiley saying to themselves, Microsoft and security, hello, like really? You know, and the truth is, yes. In fact, this morning when I was trying to just do a bit of read up, I found that Microsoft has actually been in the antivirus business as far back as 1993 when he was doing the DOS. I didn't even know that till this morning. I was basing my research as at 2000. But I was seeing documentation on Wikipedia that mentioned, so Microsoft is not totally new when it comes to the world of security. And then there's an article that says that Microsoft brought out its first security product. So it was playing in this space, but it fully brought out a security product called the Internet ISA. And I'm sure for those of you who have stayed a bit longer in the world of IT, you would have known about the ISA server. It used to be like a firewall, and it served its purpose, you know. So Microsoft is not, the essence for this is just to show that when it comes to security, Microsoft is not a newbie on the block. They might have not been the best at some point, but they have understood the system. And, you know, a lot of people have known the name Microsoft from basically your operating system or your Microsoft Word, Excel. People have not understood the Microsoft as a security provider. So well, Microsoft has been playing in that space. So this is just to put into perspective that Microsoft is not a new kid on the block. Microsoft has been in this space, has understood it, and has been playing, you know, in this environment for a while. And then to take us through memory lane, you know, you will see a transition, especially when it comes to endpoint protection, on how Microsoft has played. So in 2004, Microsoft acquired Giant and anti-spyware, and they rebranded it and called it Microsoft Anti-Spyware. And then they made a progression into 2006, where they released the first Windows Defender anti-spyware. But the thing was, pay attention here, it was just strictly an anti-spyware. So it wasn't even an antivirus, it wasn't even anti-malware, it was just an anti-spyware for XP and Windows Server 2003 operating system. So there were still gaps, you know, and while they were still playing in this space, as at 2007, with the release of Windows Vista, Microsoft also embedded this Windows Defender into the operating system. So Microsoft has always in its operating system embedded a form of security. However, because they were not 100% in this space, a lot of us didn't know, and we'll still go get the third party. So as at 2007, with the release of Windows Vista, Microsoft embedded the Windows Defender into the OS. But this still had its limitation to just anti-spyware protection. You would still need another antivirus, you know, solution to be able to say that you had an antivirus on your system. And then they progressed again in 2009 with the release of Windows 7, and they also still did embed the Windows Defender. However, Microsoft realizing this gap, released what they call the Microsoft Security Essentials. So you would have the, excuse me, you have the Defender, and you will have the Microsoft Essentials installed in order to gain some form of full protection on your device. This still wasn't meeting it. And then in progression, 2012, with the release of 2008, Microsoft had now done a bit of, iteration on the Microsoft Essential, embedded it into Windows 8. And so if you've been conversant with all this operating system and I really paid attention, if you flip back memory, you'll be sure that you could remember some of this endpoint protection. So the Microsoft Security Essentials, or what in the enterprise environment you would call the System Center Endpoint Protection, was embedded in 2012. Now, fast forward 2015, Microsoft released Windows 10. And since the release of Windows 10, Microsoft had the Windows Defender Security Center embedded in Windows 10. But because of this history and track, a lot of people didn't pay attention to what Microsoft started doing as at the Windows 10. So there's another progression Microsoft has invested since 2015 to date on the Windows 10 Windows Defender. And so Windows Defender has migrated, and today we know Windows Defender as Microsoft Defender. These are just some peak stories to give you some flash memory on the different types of antivirus that, based on the history I have given you, that Microsoft had done. So the images kind of brought back memories for me, over the years. So it's just a peak story, flashpoint. You remember, oh yes, we used to have this kind of antivirus back then. So Microsoft had played in this space. And like I said, at some point, it was just anti-spyware and malware, and then it progressed into antivirus. So this brings us to the typical question. If we want to say Microsoft Defender, not an antivirus, it would be good to even understand what an antivirus, anti-malware, and anti-spyware, this was what it's about. And so with our source from Tech Target, we just flip through on what an antivirus software is. So data security utility that you install in a computer system. The purpose is to protect you from virus, spyware, malware, rootkits, Trojan, phishing attacks, especially now with online cyber threats. And when you come to an anti-spyware, it's also a program that you have designed to prevent you from detected and unwanted spyware programs that are installed. And then the detection is either to use rule-based or definitions that are downloaded every day to help you stay protected. And when you also come to an anti-malware, it's also still a program created to protect you from your system. So what you find your typical antivirus vendors do today, or solution providers do today, is that the antivirus, spyware, and anti-malware are bundled. You call them, the typical nomenclature for it is antivirus, but most times embedded in it is an anti-spyware and an anti-malware engine. And so you would just call it an antivirus. So when we say the Microsoft Defender, not your typical antivirus, where are we going with this? If this is what we understand an antivirus, an anti-malware, and anti-spyware, and looking at the history of Microsoft that we just shared, this is what Microsoft was doing. Now, if Microsoft has changed the name as a Windows 10 and still had this embedded sensor inside Windows 10, moving from Windows Defender to Microsoft Defender, what does it then mean to us? How then can we now say it is not an antivirus? So that's the interesting thing. So Microsoft now has what it calls the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is a large, I call it a container that has 6 branches, and it's not tied only to the antivirus. We'll go through the whole 6 branches for you to understand why now the Microsoft Defender, which used to previously be Windows Defender, and is still embedded in Microsoft operating system, it's not just an antivirus. So the Defender for Endpoint, it's involved in providing the same endpoint security that we have seen over the years that Microsoft has been playing with. But now this endpoint security has the ability to protect any type of endpoint. So whether you're Windows, your Mac OS, your Linux, your Android, your iOS, your network devices, Microsoft Defender is playing in that space, because Microsoft is understanding now that with the increase in cyber threats, we're more interested in endpoint protection, not just from an anti-spyware, anti-malware. That's why we took time to look at the definitions. Microsoft is going to scale out your security resources and increase your defense around these different endpoints. It also has leveraged on built-in artificial intelligence that allows it to talk to its own cloud platform, and you can leverage on these capabilities. Another interesting thing with Defender is that it has allowed you to use its ability to even do an asset inventory. You will all agree with me that the major source point for cyber threats is the assets, okay? That's why sometimes people do not even know when people are already in their environment and they're scanning through, because sometimes you don't even know where your asset is. So if you look at regulations like ISO 27001, your information security policy will insist that you have an asset inventory. Why? Because you want to know where all your endpoints are. Where Microsoft Defender is playing in today too, it's also going to give you the ability to be able to discover all your assets, including your routers. So in no particular order, I will just explain the new features, the whole container of Microsoft Defender, and for you to be able to see that it's beyond an antivirus. So we had gone through, for those just joining us, we had gone through to explain what the antivirus, anti-malware, and anti-spyware over the years Microsoft had done and what it means. And so in the Microsoft Defender, the entity that handles this antivirus and anti-spyware is seen as the next generation protection. So the next generation protection, which is like the third icon in this diagram, in this image rather, is what would play as your typical antivirus. But Microsoft has gone beyond that to even expand it to where it now does behavioral, it does machine learning, it does in-depth threat research, it talks to Microsoft Cloud, it does big data analysis. It's not just doing the normal catch an antivirus and detect, no. So the Microsoft new antivirus functionality that is embedded in Microsoft Defender is called the next generation protection capabilities. And it has the ability to study your device, study the behavior analysis, using behavioral analysis, study your devices and be able to speak back to Microsoft Threat Intelligence and be able to give real-time zero-day attack protection on your devices. We would see that when we go into the demo session. Another cool feature that Microsoft has put in the Defender is the EDR. You know, as in the cybersecurity space, we all know the importance of the endpoint detection response. So what Microsoft Defender has brought on the table is that inclusive in the Microsoft Defender suite. So now we're getting to see why we say it is not just an antivirus. We have spoke about the antivirus functionality, which we're used to, and even seen that just even doing the antivirus, it has additional intelligence embedded in it. Now Microsoft has gone a step higher and said that inclusive of this Defender is your endpoint detection response. So, oh yes, Microsoft now has an EDR embedded in this. So it's not just an antivirus, and like and like every other typical EDR, it's an endpoint detection response. It has the ability to detect on the endpoint legitimate processes that need to run, identify suspicious behavior, and even go ahead as actioning the block when it sees it, depending on what you have configured. Microsoft has also progressed with the Defender for Endpoint to give us something every organization, whether by regulation, whether by practice, is important, which is the threat and vulnerability management. A lot of organizations today have policies that say that they must do at least a VAPT every quarter. They must do a scan. Now, in the world of cyber threats, those are seen as reactive methods. They are not proactive, but with the way cyber threats are increasing daily, we want to stay proactive. We want to be at the top of the game. What Microsoft has done, it has included the threat and vulnerability management into the Defender suite so that you do not have to wait for your quarterly scan. Embedded in all your endpoint and devices is the TVM that will give you insight into how your devices are being exposed, how they're exposed to CVEs that have been published, IOCs that are out there, if your devices are compliant to this. And so you don't have to wait for a quarterly scan, a yearly scan, get a particular pen tester to come and do a VAPT for you. You can, on a daily basis, begin to see your endpoints and begin to remediate. We will see how, I'm sure, I can't remember if it was I think it was December last year when the Log4j vulnerability, broke out and everybody was running helter-skelter. What you found organizations that did not have Defender doing was that they had to run VAPT scan to be able to identify assets that were vulnerable to this. And the downside to this is that when you use other solutions to run VAPT, you have to ensure that you have covered all your assets. The good thing with Defender is that because Windows 10 already has it embedded, once it's been onboarded into Defender for Endpoint, on your dashboard, you will see all your assets that are vulnerable to this. So for organizations that had already started using Defender for Endpoint, they were fast in their response time to remediate the Log4j, because using the Defender for Endpoint, they could see all their estates and be able to see their security posture and devices that were vulnerable to this vulnerability. Another interesting thing, just to add, I know we have questions, we can drop them in the chat box. Kes will help out during the Q&A, but just so that we manage time, we'll run through. Most of this will be seen in the demo. I'm just giving a brief overview. When we go into the demo session, you begin to see and appreciate what we're saying. And then another cool feature in the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is the attack surface reduction. What Microsoft has done with this is to be able to drill down certain processes that we know are prone to malware attacks. So we know that one of the most common ways of cyber threat is through phishing. And how is phishing done? Mass spam mails, phishing mails sent into your sent to users through emails, USB devices used to move files. So what Microsoft has done is, of course, at your email layer, you have your email security. So let's say peradventure, this file is able to bypass the email security. Even at the endpoint layer, when you have your attack surface reduction rule, it has the ability to be able to detect these processes and be able to block them at the endpoint layer. And the good thing is Microsoft has made this in such a way that you can expand this even across your server estate and not only on your desktop operating systems. Another interesting cool feature that Microsoft has included here is the auto investigation and remediation. Remember, we said to keep up par with the way cyber threats are increasing. Every organization wants to become proactive. We're on a journey to being a proactive response team. Your SOC centers, your incident response, they want to be proactive. They do not want to wait until incidents have happened. And even when an incident happens, how quick are we to remediate? And so Microsoft has given the auto investigation and remediation functionality in the Microsoft Defender that allows you to be able to react, automatically. So if it detects these behaviors using the next generation protection, using the EDR, using the ASR, using the TVM, it can react automatically. So you can put automatic investigations and remediation configurations in place that can help you as an organization fix these detections and keep yourself cyber safe proof. And then finally, Microsoft has created an API that allows an organization to talk to his threat experts and his threat intelligence center so that you can leverage it to address zero-day attacks. So if you look at this, this is now a centralized configuration and administration APIs that falls across servers, mobile, network devices. And you would agree with me that just by looking at this diagram, Microsoft Defender is not just an antivirus anymore. Okay, so we're going to quickly move faster. We're going to the demo. So how does this work? On every Microsoft device today, there is already a Defender for Endpoint service. Yes, it's already on your device. If you want to validate what I'm saying, I'm sure if you go to the lower right corner of your device, you will see the shield icon there. It's there. Once you have a Windows 10th device, you automatically already have Microsoft Defender. However, we're not here to go into the licensing features, the licensing requirements, and all of that to be able to allow you begin to talk into the Microsoft cloud. However, that sensor is already on the device. So for corporate organizations, what this means is that they do not need to worry about pushing out agents. For those of us who are in endpoint protection teams, you would know the pain it takes to want to push out agents to devices and the compliance pressure you get when assets coverage, or rather when agent coverage on assets is not meeting compliance level. So the good thing is that with Microsoft Defender, the sensor is already existing on the endpoint. So let us live in the assumption that as an organization, you have gotten the right license. There are different licenses, even for very small organizations. Microsoft has gone as well as to release what they call the Microsoft Business Premium, and also the Microsoft Business Premium, the Microsoft Defender for Business, which allows even very small organizations, as little as 1-2 user organizations, to be able to leverage on this. But we're not going to cover licensing today. We're just going to show you the functionality and that this is capable, and that Microsoft has moved away from your typical antivirus. So when you remember the past that we have shown and how you were not happy with Microsoft in the past, know that Microsoft has done a lot and has done a lot of transition that can help you. So if you work in an organization today and your organization is using Windows operating system, in fact, beyond even Windows operating system, and you want to leverage on Defender for Endpoint, know that it is possible and comes with less hassle. So how does it work? Your device already, like I mentioned, your device already has it. So there are two ways you can onboard your device through different mediums. But let's leave the technical jargons. If you onboard your device, whether through group policy, whether through System Center Manager, that's your SSCM, you can onboard through group policy. You can onboard through manual. You download the onboarding and use any deployment platform you want to push out. But once the device has been onboarded by running the script that you get from the Microsoft Security Center, which I'll show in the demo, the device gets onboarded to MDE, and that device automatically goes to the Azure Active Directory to get validation that this device is for an organization. And it's okay if the device is also not for an organization, meaning that if the device is a personal device, that's fine. But then it goes to Azure Active Directory to do an Azure AD Trust, because in the onboarding script are credentials for the tenant. And so once it has established the AD Trust, it goes into the mobile, the Microsoft Endpoint Manager, and that's where you create your policy and you create your targets, how you want to be able to manage your whole estate. As easy as this first step, that's what happens behind the scene when you want to finally get an organization fully onboarded to Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. Before we jump into the demo, let's also explain that what Microsoft has done is that Microsoft has also built a security portfolio and has called it the Microsoft 365 Defender Services. So today we're looking at Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which is the first. What Microsoft has done is that they've gone beyond to do the Defender Vulnerability Management, Defender for Office 365, Defender for Identity, Defender for Cloud Apps. And when you go into the Azure space, there's the Defender for IoT, the Defender for Azure, and all not. So Microsoft is playing beyond your typical antivirus. Microsoft is understanding that in order to provide an endpoint security, it goes beyond just having an antivirus, an anti-malware, and anti-spyware. Microsoft has taken us beyond that and provided the 6 strong pillars that we're going to look at right now in the demo. Before we jump into the demo, any questions? Okay, do we want to take any questions before I?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Do you guys have any questions? No one is signifying they have a question. So I think we can go to the demo. Yes.
Okay. So for those of you who are administrators, you would know that your Office 365, which you log into office.microsoft.com. Now, depending if you're a typical, everybody, as long as you have an Azure account, you can log into Office 365, but you only see what your administrators have given you access to. So this demo shield is more for those who are technical, who are the hands-on guys who need to do the technical work. So whether you're compliance, whether you're governance, whether you're the actual administrator, integrator, once the right role access has been given to you, you will log into your security.microsoft and you'll be able to land here. In this instance, I'm a security admin on this tenant, so I have full access and full control. I have 2 demo devices that I have already onboarded, and this is what is showing. So in this tenant, okay, this is the security posture. So when you land here at the home, it tells you your security posture of your organization. You can as well see. Now, the good thing is that if I had multiple devices on this, my home network, and I did not onboard the others, because I have onboarded 2, the Defender for Endpoint sensor will be able to do a device inventory discovery and discover all the devices that are on my network and show me those devices and classify the ones that have been onboarded and the ones that have not been onboarded.
Sorry, FJ.
Yes, please.
Question, are you already doing the demo?
Yes, are you seeing my screen?
No,
again. Okay, like I said, I'm going to learn Zoom again all over. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yeah, so can you just like run through what you just said in the past last minutes? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. But we can see my screen now, please.
Yes.
Okay. So if I take few minutes back, I said that everybody who has an Office 365 account, once you go into office.com, you will land into this the office.com page. However, you only see what your organization has allowed you to see. So typically, as a regular user, you might never get to see this. But the guys who are in cyberspace, the cybersecurity department, the SOC, compliance, governance, security, Exchange, Active Directory, they will get to an extent here, and then depending on the full rights they've been given, they'll be able to see this, because the this dashboard would cover your whole estate, whether you're doing Defender for Endpoint, whether you're doing Defender for Identity, whether you're doing Defender for Cloud Apps, whether you're doing Defender for Office, you will always see your security posture here. So the good thing is that if you're, for instance, if you're in compliance and governance, you can begin to hold the IT team accountable and the information security team accountable, because just coming here, you will see the security posture of an organization as long as they are using the Office 365 account. It will show here, because the Microsoft Defender already speaks to the 4 Defender classes that I have shown, which is your Defender for Endpoint, for Office, for Cloud Apps, for Identity, and so it puts everything into this container view and shows it to you, your security posture. As IT too, if you do board reports, these are good places where you can get numbers, because this will show you as a view your security posture. So if you look at here, in my demo environment, I only have 2 devices. In my demo environment, I only have 2 devices. So peradventure that in my home network, I had like 4 devices, but I've already onboarded only 2. The Defender for Endpoint has the ability to tell me all the devices in my network and classify the ones that I have onboarded and the ones I've not onboarded. But in this instance, I have 2 devices that I've onboarded, and that's why you can see it here, classify active 2 devices. You can see it go ahead to even tell me my device that is at risk. So from a security perspective, I can, from this dashboard, begin to see incidents, and you can see it here, mount 1 active incident that it has classified based on activity. It actually discovered 4 devices. I'll get to understand, maybe I had some old devices, and then you can see if you even do Defender for IoT. But as it goes, it has gone ahead to even tell me the different threats that require actions that it can see in my environment. So that's the good thing about this dashboard. You can, by viewing this dashboard, you can get to see your security posture in your environment. So in this tenant, for instance, the security posture is at for 3.29%. And you can see here, when I explain to you that the Defender suite itself has Defender for Identity. So you can see the percentage of this tenant you can see it's doing very poorly. For device is also not even 50%. For apps, this wasn't. So for those in compliance, in governance, you can begin to see how an organization is being, how they are compliant and how they are, the governance level around security for that organization across these different platforms or different entities. And looking at this dashboard, one of the things you want to do, for instance, we're speaking to Defender for Endpoint now, and I had explained, for those just joining us now, why Defender for Endpoint is not an antivirus. I went ahead to show us how Microsoft has 6 new pillars under the Defender for Endpoint, which used to be Windows Defender, and which used to be what you know as your antivirus. And now, so when you come into here as an endpoint security person, one of the things you want to pay attention to is to go to your settings so that you can enable the ability to do certain things. So you want to either do your device discovery. This is where you enable that you should be able to do this device discovery. And what Microsoft has even done is during the Log4j, it has given the ability to be able to enable Log4j detections. And you can, this is where you can do devices. And of course, if you wanted to exclude certain devices, maybe you want to exclude your routers, you want to exclude your switches, you can come here and make an exclusion using IP range and IP blocks, and it will exclude those guys from being detected. But because the sensor sits on every device, on every Windows 10, that Windows 10 sitting on your network can scan without even doing a proper scan, but can scan the environment and detect all devices on that network. The good thing about that is that from a security perspective, you can begin to build an asset register and an asset inventory that you can match across compliance. Another thing you want to go here is to quickly look at the features to enable. Because of GDPR, it's very important that you pay attention to here for organizations that have are running with the GDPR policy. You need to pay attention to here, because this is where you decide where your data is stored. And when we talk of data, the telemetries that are being picked out. So for instance, if you are a partner that has to do this for a client, you need to make sure that your client, that you're enabling the data storage location in line with your client's GDPR terms and policies. And this is where you can configure emails that get detections. One of the things that brings us here is the advanced features. This is where you will now enable most of the things that would allow the defender give you those cool functionalities that we have talked about. So this is where you enable everything, and then it will begin to do every other thing that we're going to see. So from device discovery to the EDR, to your EDR, to your indicators, and linking into your Intune management for device management, to your automatic investigation and live responses. This is where you turn it on. I have not enabled EDR in block mode because, like I said, this is not really hands-on training. I just wanted to show us the features, but this is where you can enable EDR to be in block mode for organizations that have done their audit mode and have observed and have fine-tuned, and they now want to enforce. And this is where you also have your automatic remediation. This is where you can configure what you wanted to do, automatic remediation for what you wanted to send notification to maybe another line approval before it would remediate. This is where you also do your integration. So for those who don't want to use, so you know that Microsoft has its own SIEM, which is the Azure Sentinel. If you do not want to use it, you say, oh, we use a Microsoft 365, we want to use Microsoft Defender, but we have our own SOC team, and we do not want our SOC team to always come. We have cases where they say, we don't want to interface, we don't want our SOC team to come here and also come to our own SIEM solution. Is there a way to take data from here and feed into our own existing SIEM solution so that we can have one dashboard? Oh, fine and good. This is where you can do the SIEM API integration and integrate it with your SIEM environment, and all the data that Microsoft is still pulling that you can see the value here. It will take everything and push it for you into your SIEM solution. And this is where, okay, you can do indicators. So this is one of the places where you can do blocking. So working with, over the years, I've worked with third-party antivirus solutions, and what you have is beyond antivirus, you will have them implement other host-based host intrusion prevention solutions on the endpoint in order to prevent things like bilateral communications or communications to external IP addresses or domains. You have cases where the SOC team have identified there's a circular going out around on IP addresses that should be blacklisted, or IOCs that should be blacklisted, or file hashes that should be blacklisted. Kes, please, can you help me mute someone? It's really noisy. File hashes that should be blacklisted, or certificate base that have been identified that in the cyberspace, it has been identified that these are blacklisted points, and in your organizations, you want to block any communication to this IP address, to these domains, to these hashes, and to these certificates. This is where you do them. So this is possible and so easy. You can block it and also create a remediation action so that as soon as the defender for endpoint sees any communication to this file hashes, IP address, URLs, domains, certificates, it will block it. Okay, and why the good thing about this is that for those in Nigeria, you will agree with me that CBN is always sending circulars to the financial institutions, most especially, to always based on detections and cyber alerts. And one of the things you always get them sent down to the IT teams is to give them evidence that they have been able to block communication. So you always see that struggle between having to do it at the firewall, and then if it's not done at the firewall, how do you ensure it? So this is one cool way that Microsoft has enabled us to meet those kind of regulatory and compliance requests. So remember when I showed that how do you onboard? The first way to onboard is when you come here, you go to onboarding, and then you have the ability to onboard different type of operating system. And you can use different means to onboard them. It's either you use group policy, SCCM, any deployment, mass deployment platforms. You can choose to want to deploy it, as you can see, either through group policy or local script manual installation, or through a mobile device management like in Tune, or through System Center configuration manager. Depending on the means, the onboarding process is the only action that and it is a script. So it's not, you're not onboarding an agent. The agent already exists on Windows 10 by default. Every Windows 10 you buy today already has the Microsoft Defender sitting in it. So you're only just running a script from your tenant that tells that agent that this is the tenant to send its telemetrics to. And once you've done that and come back here, this is where you now begin to see everything that Defender is picking up. So in my lab here, I have 2 devices, and just looking at this device inventory, imagine as a cybersecurity person, as IT, as a CIO, as CISO, as SOC, as the security administrator, endpoint protection admin, looking at this dashboard, I feel fulfilled already looking at it, because from a view, you can begin to understand what is happening in your environment. So you can see here already classifying that these devices have been onboarded and that they're active, and I can see the OS version, and I can see the exposure level of these devices. So you can see that there's a high exposure level on one of the devices. And if I click on this device to understand what this exposure level is, you can see it begins to tell me different things on these devices. And then I can go to alerts, and I can see the activities that happen. So prior to now, I had done a bit of suspicious activity on this device. And you can see where it's talking about suspicious process injection observed on this device, unexpected behavior observed. And remember, even when it blocks it, it will still tell you what has happened. Suspicious application Windows discovery. I can go further to look at the device configuration, and I can see the device configuration. So I can see if there are configuration errors. So for instance, if you're the endpoint administrator who is responsible for creating policies, you can see where your policies, so you can see it even telling me that I have conflicting policies. So this way I can click on it and see if probably there are 2 policies that have been set with the same configuration, and so it's having conflict. So at every point in time, depending on the role that you play in your organization, the defender for endpoint gives you insight into what's happening at the endpoint. So in this instance, I can see that only firewall and antivirus have been configured. ASR is not here, other functionalities are not here, and that the ones that have been configured, there's about 5 conflicts. And then you can click to see the conflicting policies and then, you know, go ahead to remediate. So you can see, I can see conflicting policies, and I can now go ahead to find out where these policies are conflicting and probably, excuse me, streamline them or remediate. And then another thing you can see on the device is security recommendations. So it goes ahead to show you it, because it has taken an inventory of this device. So before I come to security recommendation, let's look at software inventory. You can see it can tell me every software that is on a device. I remember working for one of the financial institutions back in Nigeria, and this used to be a big issue to give software inventory of devices. So I'm imagining the information security department team, you know, smiling at this availability of information. You can now know devices in your organization. You can know the type of software that is spread across your organization. You can gain full visibility into it because the sensor picks it out and it can tell you all types, it drills it down to every device that is on, every type of application that is on the device. And not only tells you that, identifies the device weakness and threat. So this is for teams that are responsible for vulnerability management. You can begin to see that from an application perspective, this is how much that application is a threat. And you can see to tell you the threat insight. So it's telling you that this Tomcat version I have on this device has the ability to allow remote code execution on this device. So when you are now giving, when you're doing your report and requesting for certain remediations, you're not just giving vague vulnerability assessments to IT, and IT is feeling overwhelmed, or the security team is feeling overwhelmed, because you now have insight and you can narrow it down to, is it a group of people, is it a group of users that use this kind of application, is it a legacy application, what do we do? You can gain full insight and not just run blindly and say, oh, we're vulnerable to this, we don't know. We can narrow it down to what estate or assets in the organization do we have this vulnerability. Another cool thing is you can see it here where it can discover vulnerabilities. So based on the global CVE database, it can match all the vulnerabilities. And you can see here, it is telling you the CVS score. So for those of you who handle threat and vulnerability management, you know that when the guys do the scan, they come up with this wonderful report and they tell you, we have 9 critical, we have this. This is one way that they can get this information easy. And the good thing is it can go ahead to tell you which application has it and how many devices in your organization are susceptible to that threat. You can even see, so if we click on, for instance, this threat, you can see how many devices. You can read even about the threat to gain understanding. You can see supporting documents that tell you everything about the threat, and you can understand how your organization is open to this threat. Another thing is even missing KBs. So you can, for instance, these systems are patched. So if, for instance, you do patch management and they're asking you to pull patch management reports and SCCM is so slow, from this, you can know systems that do not have a particular patch, and you can filter with that patch, with that KB number, and see how many systems in your organization do not have a particular patch. So if there's a threat and there's a vulnerability based on Microsoft's KB, and that patch needs to be pushed out to everybody, and you need to know how many assets have not yet met that patch, you can come using Microsoft Defender and put that KB and be able to see how many devices in your environment do not have that patch. So you can see in this place, I'm even, because of the connection to the Microsoft Threat Intelligence Center, it has identified a 0-day attack on this device, okay? And you can see it will even tell you the remediation type to take. So for some of the detections, you can see it's talking about it requires a software update. For some of the, so for this one, it is the operating system is requesting that the operating system gets a software update to fix this 0-day attack. On this one is for Apache, is also expecting a software update. So if I click, I'll be able to see the software that is in use here and the software that has that vulnerability, so that I can now upgrade that software. You can see in this instance, it's telling me the number of devices that are open to the that require this update Apache Tomcat, and I can know that, okay, this asset is the one that has this gap and needs to be fixed. Any questions so far?
Hi, yes, there are a couple of questions.
Okay, go on, please.
Okay, so the first question was from Aziz Hassan. He was asking if Microsoft Defender has, if Microsoft Defender have applications and device control capabilities. So what I understand is, I think he's asking, can you control your devices from Microsoft Defender? Yes,
you can. So Microsoft has released what they call the Microsoft Business Premium, and embedded in the Microsoft Business Premium is the Intune and Defender for small businesses, while for corporate environments, if you have the E3 or the E5 licenses with the Defender license, you'll be able to do this. Now, once you do it, how do you, with the Intune, you can now do restrictions of application. Let me take you there. So if I understand what you, firstly, there are two things. From the Defender, you can use the attack surface reduction to restrict how applications behave. So for instance, match the restriction of application to how vulnerabilities happen or how exploits happen. So we all know that Microsoft, Adobe, these are files that allow child processes, and when phishing emails are being sent with attachments, these applications are being used to run sub-processes embedded in them. But Adobe is a legit application. Your Microsoft Word is a legit application, right? So using the attack surface reduction feature, which is one of the 6 pillars of the Defender, you can create rules that can block when it sees this kind of behaviors on this application. That is one way. So in this instance, you are not blocking the installation of an application. You're not saying you should not install an application. This is you saying for legitimate applications that are on people's system, if peradventure it bypasses the email security and there's a compromised Excel with macros embedded in it, you are the finance guy, you don't know, you saw an email that looks so much like your CFO telling you to go ahead and action that transaction. And in the Excel, he says, see the list of the new payment schedule. And you were expecting that payment schedule for him. But because it's a phishing email, all you did was click on that Excel. It will run the macros behind and you won't know. But with the attack surface reduction, it will be able to see the sub-processes that are running that are not the legit Excel. You as a user, all you are seeing is an Excel sheet. What the computer is seeing is that the excel.exe process and the other SV host or LM host processes that Excel would use that are legit, it's able to see that there are other child processes that are not legit that were embedded in this file, and it immediately would address it. So from an application perspective, using the attack surface reduction, the Microsoft Defender would address those kind of scenarios. And then if you want to come to the place of restricting applications, because of the Intune management, you can now create policies here under device configuration that restrict. So if you come here, you can now create apps that are, so you call it app protection policies, the kind of apps that will be installed, how you protect those apps, policies for those apps. That's not what we're looking into today, so I'll just rough on it. But yes, using the Intune and device, which Microsoft embeds in the Defender, because Microsoft understands that most times you want to manage the device, you can restrict applications. You can say this kind of application should not be installed, or when this application is being assessed, you should do XYZ check on the end device. If the device is jailbroken, compliance, that's where you create compliance policies. If this device is jailbroken, do not allow this corporate application to run. If this device is seen to not have an updated antivirus, do not do this. All of this can be done from the Microsoft Endpoint Manager, which is one of these features that it embeds depending on the license version that you get when you want to do Defender solutions. I don't know if that answered you, Hassan.
So I also have to, I'll just join. Aziz has two other questions that he asked. One of them is, does it support Mac and other OSs? I believe Joy mentioned, I don't know if you were in the
Yeah, so if you look at the dashboard here, you can see iOS, Mac, and then if you come here when we wanted to download the onboarding script, just to show evidence that you can see that it, so when we came here and we were showing you how to onboard your devices, and I said, depending on the method you want to use, if you want to do a manual onboarding, or if you want to do, you will see that you have Windows 10, Windows XP, sorry, Windows 7, and then you can see your Mac, iOS, Android, and Linux.
So the last question from Aziz, he was asking if it supports location awareness.
Okay, so that is around Defender for identity. So when you say location awareness, it depends. Is it like to restrict, or is it to say that this device that was supposed to log in Abuja, we're seeing it logging in Ibadan? That's under identity. So remember, so that's under identity. If you remember, I had shown us that the Microsoft Defender whole suite that Microsoft is now doing, there's Defender for endpoint, there's Defender for identity, because that's your location base, and of that is your identity. You're trying to say that this identity of mine that's supposed to be in Abuja, I'm seeing it now in Ibadan, and I'm seeing it within a space of 2 minutes. There's no way, there's no amount of witchcraft that will carry you from Abuja to Ibadan in 2 minutes. I just felt like somebody said, Joy, there's witchcraft that can carry you there anyway. but you know, from a technology perspective, you can't be logging in on one device in Abuja and the next minute, in less than 1 minute, we're seeing you, that identity logging in Ibadan, it will flag it. So that's where the Microsoft Defender for identity handles. But because we're looking at the Microsoft Defender for endpoints, and endpoint in this instance refer to your mobile devices, your laptop, your desktops, your phones, your tablets, your servers, your virtual machines. These are all endpoints.
Okay, so there was also one question from Sammy. He was asking how we can have access to this lab to practice, and are there any free tools?
Oh yes, so if you just go to the trying to move away from Google. There's if you just go to Microsoft Defender, if you just Google Microsoft Defender for endpoint and you land on the Microsoft space, I'll quickly see if I can drop it in the chat. I'm trying to open multiple tabs. It's going to be able to take you to where Microsoft gives free trial. Yes, so you can take the trial for if you work in an organization and you work in an enterprise organization, there's a free trial for, I think, the E3, and there's a free trial for the business premium. If you just want to practice and get an overview, use the business premium. There's a free trial on the Microsoft Business Premium. Now, if you go, you'll see it, I think it's about 90 days or so. And that's enough time for you to play around and also do some labs and then be able to get your hands across all of this and see it real time. Yes, so Microsoft does that, and you don't have to put your card or anything.
Okay, that's all the questions so far.
Okay, so going back to the demo, we're going back to see how what we're trying to do. Remember, we're trying to say that Microsoft has moved from being an antivirus solution. You don't just see Microsoft Defender as an antivirus. No, this is no man, and this is a full endpoint security solution from end to end. And so you can see in this device that I can, from just looking at this device, begin to see my organization, that I have a high risk exposure. And when I click on this device, I can be able to drill down and see the exposure level. Another place is to land on incident. So if you come on incident, even without going to device inventory, you can see what it classifies as incident. So in this particular activity that ran on this device, you know, suspicious process injection observed. If you click on it, you can get an insight. So you can see, it tells me an insight of what happened on the device. So this is now when you want to go deep down to understand threat detection and analysis. In the cybersecurity space, remember, that's why I use the word, there's limitless opportunity. There are people that their job is just to be able to say that, oh, this is how secured we are, this is not how secured. There are people that want to understand, how did this vulnerability enter the organization and how was it executed? Yes, defender has blocked it, but we want to know, because when we know, we can understand where our exposures are. So you can see that defender goes as down as telling you. So it tells me that there was a PowerShell script that was executed. And that PowerShell script that was executed. Remember when I gave the scenario that you're a finance guy, all you know is Excel. You're not an IT person, you don't understand. And then you see this nice mail that looks like your boss's email. So your boss, maybe your organization email address is joy@fj.com. And your boss's name is Hassan@fj.com. And then you saw an email that is ha1s@fj.com, and it looks like your boss, or the full Hassan@efjay, not effjay.com. It would take only extra care. And that's why you see cybersecurity awareness is ongoing organization, for you to see it. So your first instinct is that you saw Hassan and you say, oh, this is my boss. And yes, he was supposed to send me an Excel that had the list of maybe management and payments I needed to go out to XYZ high network clients or high network vendors. And you just took it and you were going to upload into the SAP. But for you to be able to see and validate that Excel, you had to open it, right? As soon as you double clicked, XYZ was happening behind the scene. You don't know as a user. In fact, most times in organizations, we are told to suppress alerts and detections to the users. So you would never know. You would just click on that Excel, and maybe what will happen is that you will see a blank thing, and then you call your boss and say, sir, it was blank. And then most times, you know what is orgas, you might not even be able to trace that I didn't send you anything. So I thought I have sent it, and he will now send the correct one, and you will continue working and not know what has happened. In the instance here, the defender is now telling us what has happened. So in this demo that I did before the session, I ran a PowerShell script, and you can see it went as far as saying where I had the PowerShell script, giving me the timestamp, how it behaved on the system. So you can see, first of all, it tells me the user who ran this activity on the endpoint. And you can see that it was a PowerShell script, and it was at this execution. So you can see the other ones. It was just explaining what has happened. These are, you can see the SHA, you can see the file hash. They are all legit here. But where the exploit now happened was at this execution. Are you seeing it? Suspicious process injection observed, detected. Are you seeing it? And then it saw another one here, and it detected another one, suspicious application Windows discovery. So this execution script wants to run a discovery on the environment. You can see it. It talked about the path, you can see it, where it was going to run this suspicious file and keep it in the temp folder. Now we're going deep down into vulnerability and malware analysis for those who this is their space. And you can see it's saying, when it was done, what it executed, he executed a notepad. Are you seeing it? And immediately that execution was done, the suspicious file, are you seeing it, was trying to go outbound. Outbound means that that file now wanted to start talking out. So it now wanted to start communicating with his command and control center. Defender is able to give you this deep. So let us take it that the way this detected, you are in the SOC and you see this. The good thing about this, you can get the IP addresses, and you can now go to your network indicators and you can now block. You can now block, so that this command and control IP's address, nobody, you can copy it, go to and now block, and nobody will be, you can classify this alert, but it gives you a deep down on what has happened on this device, and you can have an idea. In one of the organizations where this was used, somebody was legitimately downloading an application from the internet, and you will see that the kind of application he was trying to download was going to help him to do his job. So you can see how we try to as IT people, sometimes we find some very good softwares that can help us be fast in our automation, but we get them from some of these funny websites. And inside this application, they named the application CyberArk something too, but embedded inside it was Mimecast. You would never know. It was the defender that flagged it. The executable was CyberArk, but embedded into it. So what they have done is run the program that when you are running that CyberArk that you thought you were downloading, you'll be executing Mimecast in the environment. And me and you, for those of us in cybersecurity, know the effect of Mimecast. But the user was legitimately, surfing the internet for a tool to help him or her do their job. But Defender was able to detect it and, block it, and that was immediately remediated. Another thing that you can do from this view is to isolate. So you can see where I told you that you can quickly add, so if you look at the recommendations that it has even given. So sometimes even when you don't know what are the remediations to take, Microsoft is able to give you some background. So you can see it says investigate the machine's timeline, validate, contact the machine's user to verify whether they received an email. You now want to run a full malware scan. You want to submit the files, and you want to add those IPs to the indicator block list so that no other person will be able to reach it. Another thing that we can do on a user's device is, let's assume you want to run the full scan or you want to isolate the device. You can do it from the Defender. So if you come here, you can from here run an antivirus scan. You can initiate even a live response session. So if you want to even connect to the device to be able to run certain commands, maybe you at this level, for those who are doing, advanced threat hunting and remediation, you probably need to execute a command on the device immediately so that probably it will shut down the device or shut down access to stuff. You can initiate a live response. You can initiate an automatic you can initiate an automatic investigation. You can exclude that device. So you can see a particular threat and say, no, we want to be able to stop bilateral. And I've seen instances where they will say, shut down the device, kill the port. They'll go to network people try and kill the port where the person is connected. And from the MD, you can automatically exclude that device from the network. If I try it now, lose network connectivity to you guys because we're using the internet. But as soon as you click exclude, it would automatically disable the network port and there won't be any communication outbound. And you can collect investigation package that if you need to send for forensic and other things. At this point, there's so much. Okay, let me take one more. Let's look at the threat and vulnerability management. I think I've talked about that too, but just quickly, you can, if you come to the threat and vulnerability management, for those who need to, you can also see your exposure score as an organization, and you can see devices, what they're exposed to, and you can see your exposure scores and remediate. And then, for instance, the log4j we all know is a big vulnerability. And in fact, when I saw the log4j on this device, I was surprised because I didn't know. So it was until I clicked on it that I was able to trace and see which application is it flagging. And then that was where I saw this. So you can see it's because I really did not think I had any application on the device. And to be honest with you, you see this Java file. If you go to my control panel, it doesn't exist here. This was a Java extension that was installed at some point in time to address something about 2-3 years ago, and I have forgotten about it. So it will not show on the control panel. I had totally forgotten about it because when I was preparing for the demo, so I was like, Log4j, I don't have any. And then I saw, so look at the folder, it narrates it. So you can go and remediate. So sometimes people even have things on their devices that they don't know about. And that's how you create backdoors that connect to command control centers, and you do not know that, there's a saying in cybersecurity that we say that there are people that have been compromised. There are people that don't know that they have been compromised. And this is this kind of instance that you will have where you can get compromised and you will not even know. Okay, on this note, I would like to stop. Like I said, this is not a training session. If you want a training, we can go on and on. But the whole idea was to show us, and I believe that at this point, you all agree with me, that Microsoft has moved from being just an antivirus solution to a full endpoint security solution. So if you're an organization that is already using Office 365, you know, the year is coming to an end. We're already in the second quarter of the year, and very soon you'll be running budgets, trying to show cost savings. Now you don't have to worry about agents for vulnerability management. You don't have to worry about agents for EDR. You don't have to worry about agents for software inventory. You don't have to worry about agents for antivirus. All of this is embedded in Microsoft Defender. You don't have to worry about agents for host intrusion prevention. Neither do you have to worry about agents for device and control, USB control, print restriction. That's seven. 7 agents is what you have today when you use different solutions. With Microsoft Defender, you just have one sensor that you do not deploy, already exists on Windows 10. Thank you.
So thank you very much, FJ. Yeah, this was a very interesting session. It was very insightful. And as much as you said it's not a training session, I think to a large extent, a lot of us got a lot of information from the demo you did and the stories you told and all the explanation. So I'm sure we can all agree. So I would say thank you to FJ, Joy. I don't know why I keep calling you FJ, but yeah.
Yeah, my name is FJ. Majority of people call me that, but my normal name is Joy. But you know, I'm very okay to be identified as FJ.
Okay, thank you very much, Joy. Thank you very much, FJ. Same person. The participants are also saying thank you, and thank you everyone that joined this Zoom session. We appreciate like the participation and the questions, and I hope we all took away something from this demo, and hopefully we'll be having more in the future. Meanwhile, yeah, this is She Secures. This was brought to you by She Secures. I'm trying to stop this sharing so that I can show you like the first page of my.
Okay. Yes, very important.
Yeah. So I will just show you our name, what we do. Yeah. So yeah, She Secures. So this was brought to you by She Secures. All of us are members of She Secures. So if you'd like to support, if you have ideas for future workshops or live Q&As or demo sessions we could do, please reach out. That's our website, shesecures.org. We're also on Twitter at She Secures. So you can tweet, you can tag us, hashtag She Secures. Keep in touch, spread the word. This session will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. Also, She Secures on YouTube. So feel free to go there for like a refresher when you eventually get your free trial of Microsoft Defender. So that's all from us. Yeah, thanks guys. Thank everyone. Thank you for participating. We appreciate.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you all. And enjoy. Have a beautiful weekend.
Yep, bye.